Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we are talking about Tarleton's Masters of Public Administration program. And I'm pleased to be joined by the program director and some faculty representatives. We are excited to answer your questions. So as we are going through the presentation, if you do have questions, please go ahead and submit those using the Q&A box or the chat box, and we will handle those at the end of the presentation. So at this time, I will just turn things over to our faculty.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. And I would say conversation about our growing Master of Public Administration program at Tarleton State University. So, there are a lot of masters in public administration program around this country and the world, but particularly we are focusing on today on our program. And we can start with that uh, conversation based on what we think about public administration, like what is public administration? From my personal experience working at Tarleton and talking to different students, prospective students, I have learned that many of the students who are recently finishing the undergraduate degrees and also trying to get into some graduate degrees, they hardly have any idea of what is public administration in this contemporary world. And that is kind of a challenge for these prospective students group. And we always try to explain what do we mean by public administration and what do we do with public administration degree in our career as we are trying to get into the career. So here I start, or I try to highlight, starting from what is public administration as a concept or as a discipline. So we basically tell people or tell everybody that public administration covers a large range, a wide range of field. And field means not only the scholarly or theoretical discussion, but also the administrative services, the public services, and the services we provide to the citizens, to different communities, and to different groups of clientele, and try to build the stronger society by serving different groups of people. So we may talk about different theories, different concepts of running the government organization, running the public sector organizations. But at the end of the day, public administration means delivering public services in a way so that we can actually incorporate the good practices and try to meet the needs of the society, try to meet the needs of the communities we're serving. So it's all about providing the service. And because the word administration sometimes confuses many people, like administration means like running some kind of a big organization, government organizations, public organizations, and also probably governing some large organizations. But administration, still the word persists in the discipline, but the notion, the practice, all these things have changed over the years. Now, in modern time and in future times, we're trying to build a group of people who will actually deliver good services to the citizens, to the people, regardless of their identity, regardless of their status, socioeconomic background. So we are trying to build that extraordinary pool of people who will take the baton from the previous generation of public servants to implement good policies, which will positively affect our society. So that's the overall understanding of public administration, like what is public administration, if you ask. Now the question remains like, what does a public administrator do? Or what do we do with that particular degree or understanding or knowledge of delivering public services? And we have seen many evolutions in the concept, in the ideas of the usage of the degree in a sense, like what should be the role definition for the people who have that particular degree. people with public administration degree can have a large variety of roles, can take large variety of roles in different organizations. Ideally, public sector organizations, but that is not the end. Public administration degree holders, they can work in private organizations. They also can work in nonprofit organizations, and they have been doing a great job. Even our students, even our alumni in our program, they have been contributing from their different positions. Even they work for the private sector organization. And that's why they can have human resource management positions, community and economic development positions like city manager, strategic planner, public health professionals, and they can write grants, that they can actually do the field level implementation of the policies. For example, Social Security Administration Office and different public works do some policy analysis job, budgeting works, financial management, and how to prepare the financial aspects of the organizations. So these are the whole lot of varieties of work they can do. And we take the pride as a public administration scholar or trainer that we are preparing the people in a way so that they can take any responsibilities of public services in ever evolving public sector organizations in this country and obviously around the world. So when you have public administration degree, that doesn't limit your work within the US. You also can have work in the United Nations beyond the country's border. I mean, we have students contributed across the globe. So that's the proud range of the degree we offer. Like they can do a good work around the globe. And for our program, we have requirements for getting into the program. We do not require GRE as the standardized test. 2.5 minimum GPA is a minimum requirement, and cumulative of 60 hours, and new students can enroll anytime, like fall, spring, or summer. And thesis is an option for the students if they want to do, but we do have capstone course which actually trains the student in a comprehensive way so that they can actually build a rigor, creating a conjunction between the academic discussion and the practitioner-oriented discussion as well. And finally, I just want to highlight, and we'll stop here, like 36 credit hours required to get the degree in our program. So I will just stop here and invite our department head and program director, Dr. Galia Cohen, to shed further light on the program.
Thank you, Dr. Islam. Very well said. I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, man, I want a degree in public administration. So he did a great job really putting the gist of what is this degree about. The only thing I would add is that it's like one of the biggest surprises that I always that I always experience is that students always know what is business administration degree, right? And but they don't know what a public administration degree is. And when they ask me how is it different, I said it's very similar. It's about running organizations. The only difference is the bottom line, right? The bottom line in private organizations, in business organizations is dollar amount. And the bottom line in public organization is just like Dr. Islam said, it's service delivery. And people forget that every services they receive, from water to I mean, food regulation, everything they experience in their lives is through the administration of public, in public organizations. So it's just a little nuance that I always find very surprising. I think that with a master's degree, people understand today that they have the two things are very clear. Is that it gives them the opportunity for career advancements, which we all know that today in government and nonprofit organizations, a master's degree and advanced degree is a required degree, and employers look very seriously on what this degree is. So we see a lot of people in the public sector wanting this broad management degree that encompasses everything rather than a niche degree for career advancement purposes. And then the other thing is the impact of the work that you do when you work in the public sector with a public administration degree. I think that it just allows you the ability to work in something that makes positive contribution to society. So that's kind of just like my take on this. Like Dr. Islam said, we have a very flexible program that is designed mostly for the working professional, for the full-time working professional, trying to balance work and life, family, children, whatever, and of course, graduate studies. And we understand that. And we offer flexible formats in the form of online, hybrid, face-to-face. Our program is not an online program, but you can absolutely finish it with only taking online courses. We see a lot of demand right now for hybrid courses, which are some face-to-face, but then some work online. So students cannot really come in every week for 2.5 hours. So we're trying to accommodate that as well. But if you needed to just take an online courses, then that would also be an option. We have both non-thesis and thesis options. So you can choose either track. Both are 36 hours. In fact, that is not true. The non-thesis option is actually 30 with 6 hours of thesis, but for the that's good enough. I mean, it's 36 hours. Students ask me, should I do thesis or non-thesis? My answer to that always is, do you want a PhD? And do you 100% want a PhD? Because if not, then if the degree is meant for professional advancement purposes or for professional development, then the non-thesis option is, I think, the better option. The non-thesis option has a final project with it, which is a capstone project, which students are really delving into a problem that is within their organization and their field, and that they need to solve and provide recommendations to. Whereas the thesis option is where you actually write a research, more of you actually conduct research, and so you write a thesis that is great to be developed as a dissertation later on. But I think that for the full-time non-traditional student, that is mostly our students, the non-thesis option is the more recommended option. Our faculty is practitioner, but because our program is practitioner-based students and our faculty is practitioner-based faculty, I am very proud to say that we have great faculty. We have faculty that understand the world of practice, and most importantly, we have faculty that understand the mindset of the full-time professional student that needs to balance all these things around their lives other than graduate studies. So I always say we do not treat our students as traditional students, meaning if you didn't submit a paper, then, oh no, you have to manage your time better, and you get an F, and next time do better. That is not how we work, and that's not how anyone in my faculty work. We understand that life happens, and we really work with the students to accommodate their needs and their crazy time schedule. And I would say that a high percentage of our program is first responders. So we have firefighters and law enforcement and dispatchers, which work crazy shifts and not very, don't always have a routine to their lives. And we definitely understand that and accommodate that. We are very good about that. Our curriculum is composed of 24 core courses and 12 electives. And this is a change from what we used to do, what we had before, which was much less electives and more core. So one thing that we did as a faculty is we allowed more electives, so students can actually choose what they want to know, right? What's right for their professional advancement and for their interests. So we gave them more leverage in terms of choosing their electives. And also, we got rid of courses that were core before, and we thought that were not as needed for that. So, for example, statistics used to be a core class. And one of the things that we did was to get rid of that as a core class. And instead, we realized that our students might benefit much more from taking another leadership class or another budgeting class rather than doing statistics, which they might not ever use in their in their career. We offer the courses based on rotating schedule, and we have a variety of 8 weeks versus 16 weeks. It's not either or, because there are students that will swear that 8 weeks is the way to go, and then there are students that will swear that 16 weeks is the only way to go and 8 weeks is impossible. So trying to balance both students' demands and needs, we have a really good combination of both classes, of both types of classes.
Oh.
So I talked about that, yes, and we have the and if anyone want, I can send the degree plan that lists all the courses that we're using in our degree. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. That was so helpful to hear that overview. For our live audience members, it's time now for you to submit your questions. We would love to answer those for you. You should see a Q&A box, or you can also use the chat box to submit your questions, and we'll have our faculty answer those for you. In the meantime, I do have a few questions of my own. Dr. Cohen, you had mentioned that many of your students are actually working in the field, they're first responders or coming from different agencies. And so I just was curious, what do the academic backgrounds of your students tend to be? And would you say most of them are working professionals, or do you have people who are coming straight from undergrad and going to the M.P.A. program?
That's a good question. While I do not know all of our students, I make a lot of effort, a lot of effort to get to know them, even though it's an online environment and it's harder to. I don't know. I cannot think of having a student that finished their bachelor's and immediately got their master's, unless they are in service, right? I mean, yes, there are students. We have students that are in service students, meaning they work in the public sector, and they finish their master's, their bachelor's. We have an accelerated program and option, so they can take master's classes already in their last year of their bachelor's degree. So unless they're in service and they do that leap, I don't know that we have traditional students that have not worked before and are just doing both. Might happen in other program, I don't know that it's here. And if they do exist, it's very, very small number. Most of our students are students that are, I will call them mid-careers, maybe at entry level or mid-careers. That's not true. Even late careers. I mean, we have students in their late careers that understand that in order to be a police chief, they need to get a master's degree, and that will not happen unless they have it. So they come in their, in their 50s and 60s, and now they want to get a degree. So it varies, but I think the one constant is that they really are all in service already, whether it is 5 years in or 20 years in, they're in service.
Well, and speaking of police chiefs, I remember that if I remember correctly, there have been police chiefs on your faculty over the years.
Yes, so we have police chiefs that are, we have a few police chiefs that are currently adjunct faculty, We have a current full-time faculty, Dr. Rickman, who I thought I saw his name on the call. He's no longer here. He is a former fire chief. So that again goes to the idea of this practitioner-based faculty. I myself come from the world of practice. I do a lot of professional development training for law enforcement executives. So yes, so we do come from an interesting background of combination of academia and practice. Yes.
Yes. Do you have any stories of how you've seen your graduates leverage this M.P.A. credential to advance themselves or go on
Oh,
to
yeah, there are
do
many.
different things?
Probably Dr. Islam also has some examples. What do we have? Gosh, we tend to rave about those students so much. We had someone that became the director of what does Derek do? That he was our panelist. Director of do you remember?
Yeah, in Corpus Christi.
In Corpus Christi, yeah.
I think the transportation.
Transportation. I mean, we
I
have,
think so.
yeah. We have law enforcement officers that have become assistant chiefs and deputies. We have a student that became a city manager. I mean, they are all over. They get promotions all the time. I actually have, I keep a list so we can brag about them, but sometimes they tell us, they send us an email and they tell us about their promotion.
That's
But
exciting. So we've got some viewer questions here. Someone's asking about the capstone project. Is it a project of the student's choice, or do faculty advise in terms of what potential areas of research could be? And what all is involved with that capstone? What goes into it?
so the capstone class, first of all, it really depends on the faculty who runs it, right? But in overall, I mean, at least from my perspective, it is a research paper. It is a paper, absolutely, that has all the elements of a research paper. But from my perspective, the way I lead it, at least, is I ask students to find a wicked question, a question that they would have liked to bring to have a solution to, that occupies them, that bothers them in their work. So by that, students are really invested because they want to know the answer to that. It is a research paper not in the way that we send students out to collect data, which would be the way of a thesis, basically. It is a research paper that has the components of literature review, where if you're coming up with a question and then you go and find out what the literature has to say about it, and then it encompasses your own ability to bring in whatever you studied in this degree, your own professional experience and knowledge, and to come up with recommendations to this problem. So I had students that took this capstone project, the research paper, and presented that in their work. For example, I had a student that was working in a task force for sex trafficking. And so her capstone project was about best practices for sex trafficking task force. So she actually researched what she's doing at work and came up with solutions, with ideas of how they can do their task force better. I had a student that thought that EMTs are not getting enough professional development. So his capstone project was about what is the benefit of professional development for EMTs. And he actually took this capstone to his chief and presented it as a way to show, here, this is what's happening, and this is why we need professional development in our professional field. So it's more than just a research paper. It's a way to really apply theory to practice, which is the bottom line of this program, is to make people understand how they can take the theory we teach them and apply it to their practice, to their actual experience.
Thank you for that. So if I'm remembering correctly, you indicated, or one of you indicated earlier in the presentation, that the capstone is for your non-thesis track. Is that accurate? And
Yes.
so you recommended that the thesis track would probably be best for people who are wanting to go further with a doctoral program. So can you clarify for people, what's the difference between your capstone paper and the master's thesis, if both are written and involve some research?
Yes, it's a much smaller, and I'll let Dr. Islam also maybe add to this if I'm missing something. In my perspective, a capstone, first of all, it's a much smaller scale paper. I mean, in terms of the written pages, which is really always very interesting to students. And the other major difference is that we don't send them to collect data, whereas in a thesis, you will go and collect data. Am I missing something, Dr. Islam? What do you think?
No, I think you're right on the spot. I mean, thesis is a much more larger document which involves more rigorous research method. I mean, capstone also involves some research method, but that brings the practitioner lens into the academic discussion.
True.
That kind of a blend of academic discussion with the practitioner or experiential learning, whereas thesis is just the academic theory building practice.
Thank you.
Absolutely, that's a good point. Thank you for ending that, because that's a very good point. Thesis would be much more theoretical and research oriented, and that would be yes. And I would say this because students always get nervous. What if I don't want a PhD now, and then I decide to, and then I decide that I want to. It's okay. I mean, it's not. It doesn't. If you're doing a non-thesis track, doesn't mean that it does not prevent you from going on a PhD. I always tell students, I never did a thesis track. I moved from a thesis track to non-thesis track because I almost didn't finish my master's degree. With all life again, when life just came in, and I did a non-thesis track, and I did get my PhD. So it's only helpful. It's not a requirement. It's helpful if you have that foundation to work from and maybe develop that thesis to a dissertation. But it doesn't mean that if you then decide a few years later, oh, I want a PhD, I wish I did a thesis track. That's not how it works.
We've got a viewer asking about how students are assessed. Are their grades just based on written papers, or are there any traditional exams with Q&A questions?
I'll let Dr. Islam answer this. It really depends on the professor, so I'll let him have his take on it.
Sure, thank you very much,
He's
Dr.
doing,
Cohen.
because he's doing such great things with his students that it's just like I can only be jealous of the stuff he's doing. So
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your wonderful comments. So basically, in variety of courses, like core courses and elective courses, it all depends on the faculty and the curriculum as well. Uh, and it's a kind of a variation, and we do both. Like some faculty may ask for a final paper, like an academic sort of writing, and then some faculty may ask for like final exam, giving them 2 or 3 questions or 4 questions regarding like the core content of the course. So it actually depends on the faculty, depends on the curriculum, depends on the learning objectives. SLOs, like a student learning objective, we define at the beginning of the course in the syllabus. So these are the variables we actually consider when we design for either final paper or final examination with question and answer.
Thank
but
you.
but we do more than that, right? I mean, you have this amazing podcast that you let students do that are
Right.
part of their assessment. So I mean, there are so many creative ways that especially Dr. Islam and others are using that are just beyond the regular research papers and discussion boards. It's like that are way beyond that.
Can you
Yes.
talk about that more? This is a primarily online program, although not necessarily fully online. And for many people, they've really got no concept of what it would mean to complete a graduate degree only online. Canvas is the learning management system that we use. Can you give a sense of what actually happens, how your program is executed online, and how much interaction would students have with you and with each other in an online format?
Yes, it's a great question, and it's actually complementing the what we just discussed. I mean, online higher education, that's a reality, right? It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And even though students say, "Oh, we want face to face," it's not fun. It's not fun. They don't walk the talk. They say that they want face to face, but then they choose the online. So we have to come up with ways to engage them beyond the traditional ways of when maybe 10 years ago in academia, I had a face-to-face section to a class and I had an online section to a class. And if someone wanted the interaction, he would choose the face-to-face. If someone wanted online, that would be a traditional online. That does not, I think that does not exist anymore. And we all need to understand that it is online, but we need to but students still want to be engaged. So for example, I gave Dr. Islam's podcast, which I've had students telling me, by the way, that it was fun experience. I didn't even have a chance to tell him yet, that it was such a fun activity for them. They had to create a podcast and interview someone in a podcast. I'm a big believer in Zoom sessions, even for an online class. So I have this professional development series that I do over my 16 weeks course, and every couple of weeks students meet online on the Zoom, and we either do an activity, or I break them up for groups and they do an activity, or we have a discussion, or I do some kind of a presentation about job interview, preparing for job interview. I do a writing workshop. These are not mandatory. I cannot make students attend those, but I can tell you that 80 to 90% of the students attend these meetings, even if it's not mandatory. So it shows you students really are thirsty for that engagement beyond just the regular discussion boards and submitting papers online. And I think the faculty is doing really an amazing job. Another thing that we did, just a quick plugin that works really great, is to accommodate students' busy schedules and the fact that they cannot come to class 2.5 hours a week, but they still want that engagement. So we created an executive style class, which means we only meet 1 full day a month. 1 full day a month over a course of a semester. That's 4 full days. And the rest of the work is online. And the rest of the work online, meaning very, very little short writing assignments. But students love it, because I think that it computes with their idea of coming to work 8 to 5, and they just know that they are there for the whole day. They make it work with their employers. Their employers, even in some cities, they gave them the day. They don't even have to take the day off for that. And students come and sit all day in class. We have the ability to do a lot of things when it's a full day, so a lot of hands-on activities. And that format worked great. We've done this 2 times already, and the 3rd time is on its way in the fall, and we'll even have one in the spring. So that's kind of on the tip of the iceberg of what we're trying to do to make this beyond an online class.
Exciting, exciting. Someone is asking if there is a prescribed order in which they are supposed to take coursework.
That's a good question, and the answer is no, other than the capstone that needs to be taken in the last semester, because it encompasses everything you've learned in the program. But other than that, we consider all classes to be at the same level, and students are free to do it in their own order and pace.
So once someone has been admitted by the College of Graduate Studies into your program, what happens next, Dr. Cohen?
They get admitted to the program, and then they get an email from me that explains how they can enroll, gives them the degree plan, and detailed explanations of how to enroll. And really, it's for them to roll with. I mean, students who take 3 classes per semester over 6 semesters will finish the program in 2 years. Students who have more hectic schedule and they cannot take 3 classes, they take 2 classes or 1 class. I always say that's also good enough. I mean, that do what you need to do in order. The goal is to finish the program. So 1 class, and I've had students that take 4 classes per semester. It's really your own pace, the load that you can handle, and it's kind of, there's no cohorts, there's no requirements. You just kind of roll with it in your own pace and interest.
And so from the start, people can mix and match electives and core courses.
Absolutely.
They don't have to complete core first before they do electives.
No, though you're touching on it. So I said it is recommended that you start with the core, because the core are mandatory and they're not offered every semester, right? So I always tell students, finish as much as you can with the core. Whatever is offered in a certain semester will only be offered in the next equivalent semester. So there are fall classes and there are spring classes. So you don't get stuck with a class that you need and is not offered. It is always better to take core classes if possible. There's more flexibility with the electives, but you don't have to. It's not mandatory.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any further questions from our live audience. Are there any final parting words for your prospective students, Dr. Cohen, people who are not only watching live, but people who will continue to watch this indefinitely on YouTube as we move forward?
Well, like I said, I think that we are entering an era where a master's degree is a must. I mean, it's just reality. Students complain and they say it's degree inflation or whatnot. It is what it is. It is the reality that students, that in order to advance in the workplace, students need a master's degree. I tell that to my kids who are in college age, and I tell that to my students. Some of them it can be even older than me. It is the reality. It's not 20 years ago when just having one degree made you very special. So my advice to students who are thinking, to individuals, to professionals who are thinking about it, and they're thinking maybe one day, is get it done. It needs to be done. If you have any thoughts about advancing your career, getting promoted, just get it done, because it's coming for you. Things always get more difficult, I think, when people say, like, after I get married, after I move, after. Those of us who have kids know that it only gets more difficult. So I know that this is a program that will help you make this work, because we have made this work for people who have very, very complicated lifestyles and professions, and very demanding and high responsibility jobs. We are very good at taking them through this journey. And if anyone wants more information, to talk to us more, I see my email there on the slide, and any one of my faculty. I mean, we are always happy to give advice.
Very good. Well, that's a perfect ending to this webinar presentation. Thank you to our live audience members for joining us today and for your great questions. If you're interested in reviewing this content again, it will be available to review on demand on the College of Graduate Studies YouTube channel, along with lots of other great content. So when you've got some time, pay a visit there, and I think you'll find that content very helpful. I appreciate our faculty members joining us today, and with that, we'll end our webinar.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thanks.